Did you have any hesitations, in joining the show? Like, did you know what you were getting into?
I definitely didn't know what I was getting into, but I think they did a pretty good job of letting us know, like, it's a reality show. This is what we want to do. We want to showcase X, Y, and Z. And, like, it's a reality show at the end of the day. So all you can do is just go on and be yourself. And that's exactly what I did. Which is a daunting thing, watching yourself back. You're like, whoa, because I am exactly who I am on TV as I am off. And like my friends that know me really well watching, like, that's Joey. Like, that's just I say the things I say, but I don't regret a thing. And I definitely knew what I was getting into, I think. I mean, I
But
think that this is what I'll say about that actually. Like, like if we want to get juicy, it's like I didn't, I knew some of my cast members, I didn't know some of my cast members, but the only thing that I didn't, you know, project was like dealing with people that like were difficult and people that didn't want to like talk about everything, and that got annoying as we went on filming. And those people just made it difficult for everybody else to try and like do their jobs and open up.
I assume you're referring to Dorian.
Yeah,
Hold that thought for a minute because I have some questions about Dorian. No, but I was going to say, in knowing what you were getting into, I mean, I've had, Meredith and Brooks on here many times. I know you're friends with the
yes,
Markses.
but Meredith was on last week's episode.
I know. I was sitting there waiting and I'm like, when is Meredith Marks going to make an appearance on Friends of WeHo? There she was. Like, did you turn to her for any advice just because she's, heading into, her third season or fourth season, really?
I definitely looked to her for advice just to kind of get just to know like what's good. She gave me really good advice for interviews actually, like how to kind of go about the interviews and just staying your lane because interviews get tough because you have to think you're sitting there for 4 hours, like going through like re-feeling the emotions of everything. And she gave me good advice just to how to like breathe, don't say anything you don't want to say, and just kind of like don't try too hard and still be yourself.
Always the lawyer, that Meredith Marks.
Always the lawyer. And we've been friends forever. So she was super excited for me to do the show. And I think she's proud of like my trajectory on the show.
Were you, before we get back to Friends of WeHo for a second, like, were you a housewife? Are you a Housewives fan? Like, do you watch Housewives?
100%. That's another reason why I was so excited to do this because I was like, oh, like I got this. I will be honest about one thing though. Since doing my show, watching any other franchise of the Real Housewives has totally become different for me because now I know way more like the behind the scenes, how it works. So it just is different watching it. It's still very, very, very much enjoyable. It's just like I'm sure it's really annoying when other people watch it with me because I'm like, wait, that happened this way, and I know too much.
Well, I thought that was a really unique take on this show too, because I mean, like, you guys do break the fourth wall like right away. I mean, you're talking about being in the public eye, like that first scene with Brad. Like, I thought that was just a great way to do a reality show because everyone is in on the secret these days.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're filming a show, and I think that unfortunately, I think for some of the people that weren't able to like just get into it and like film the show and be themselves, I think that we kind of had no choice in a way. Like, I mean, that was, the network and the producer's decision, but I just think that like at some point when it became like filming and we'd be like, some of the people just made it difficult, the Dorians of the world that didn't want to talk about this, didn't want to talk about this. I think when you sign up for a reality show, you need to be willing and able to just willing and able. I'm like, are we like in a plane and an exit route? But you need to just be willing to like be upfront and be honest about everything. You can't be like, I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this. Because then it gets annoying for everyone else that is divulging. The Curtis of the world that have decided to like really be his true authentic self on the show and share so much. And like, it's just not fair in my opinion, but it worked out to our benefit.
Yeah, I mean, Curtis's story really, I mean, here is this like grown man who's really coming out. Like, that should not be like under, I mean, wow, right? Because I mean, like, you're coming out on national TV. That's kind of a big way. Like, where do you think of like Curtis, like where he is now? Because we saw a lot of his struggle, with this whole
We're still
process.
such good friends, and I think like it's really helped him. And I think that at the end of the day, it's been a great experience for him. And we still talk every day. He's amazing, and I think that like just as we keep going on and more people start watching, it's just going to help so many people. And I think that was his goal. And I think it's working, and I think he's happy about it.
How did you, I know you're originally from Virginia. How did you end up in WeHo? Like, was that always your plan?
No, I honestly never wanted to move to LA. I always was like New York, New York, New York. And I lived in New York for 8 years. And then the pandemic hit. After the pandemic, I was like, let's give West Hollywood a try. And it was only supposed to be for 4 months because like I'm gonna want to be rushing back to New York. But then I didn't. We moved here and we just like fell in love with it 2.5 years ago. And now I bought a house and I live in the hills, and it's just like a dream come true. I'm on a reality show, so it's like I really, really did the LA thing full force.
I split my time. Like, I'm in New York half the time and LA half the time. And I mean, really, I think I know like two people in New York these days, and like everyone is in LA. Everyone has
That's how
fled New
I
York for
feel.
LA. Everyone. It's crazy.
That's how I feel. I go back and I'm like, I can't wait to see all my friends. I was like, wait, all my friends are moving here now. So it's interesting.
I have like two friends in New York these days. We did learn from this first season of Friends of WeHo, you grew up. I mean, takes one to know one. I was right there with you. You grew up getting bullied. When did you kind of, come to, look, a lot of people internalize that, right? I mean, especially when you're a child, like, were you always like good at like standing up to bullies? Like, did you fall into it and then kind of, come into your own later in life?
I
As
think
far
for
as
me,
like the
like I
problem
kind
isn't
of
me,
I'm
it's all these
still
people.
coming into my own. And as we watch this season, I feel like the only thing I would say is that I really shared a lot more about like my insecurities, me growing up, and like a lot of it didn't make it to show kind of like more about who I am. And I think that was like the one thing I kind of like was like I wish they showed more of that, because I really did struggle hard with just being bullied growing up. But I think that online and my online presence, it shows a really confident version of myself. But I think the show shows like only the really confident version, and it doesn't show the things I struggle with about like my insecurities that I still deal with, and like my skin and my body and my weight, and like the things that um the bullies really like tapped into me like during my whole youth. So as I'm going, I'm still trying to like grow up. But I think the show honestly gave me so much confidence for some reason. And I don't know why, but being able to watch myself on TV, like the first scene of the first episode, my skin looked so bad and I was in bad lighting. And I think a year ago, even, I would not have been able to see that. But I think just going through the filming process and being on a reality show in general and being with six gay guys, and I think it really helped my self-esteem for some reason. It's weird, but I just feel kind of like the most confident, best version of myself coming out of the show. Whether like people are hating it or loving it, or all the drama that surrounded it, no matter what, I'm proud of myself for doing it. But I also just feel like the best version